What if I told you the most powerful person in the room is never the loudest one? That true power doesn't walk in shouting it. Walks in silent, and suddenly everyone forgets what they were just talking about. They feel it before they see it. Their tone shifts. Their posture straightens, their laughter dies mid-sentence, and they don't even know why. That is the beginning of what Machiavelli called the most dangerous form of power, the kind you cannot trace. In today's world where people fight to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, the rarest and most feared individual is the one who says nothing, yet owns the room without lifting a single finger. You don't control people by raising your voice. You control them by raising the atmosphere, by shaping the energy they breathe when you're near. Because presence, real presence, is a storm behind calm eyes, a question mark in every silence. This is not charisma. This is not charm. This is architecture, psychological architecture. And if you learn how to build it, people will follow, hesitate, and obey without ever realizing why. Today, you'll learn the Machiavellian blueprint for creating an aura so powerful that people second-guess their confidence, shift their behavior, and orbit around you as if caught by gravity. Don't just take power, become the air they breathe. Power today is misunderstood. We think it belongs to the loudest person in the room, the one who speaks first, takes up the most space, or forces people to listen. But Machiavelli knew better. True power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It lives in the quiet moments when people shift in their seats and glance at each other, unsure of why they suddenly feel small. Imagine walking into a crowded room and without saying a word, the conversation dies. Not because you demanded silence, but because your presence alone felt like a storm waiting to break. This is not some mystical energy. This is psychology. When a person carries themselves with absolute composure, when they radiate a stillness that cannot be shaken, it triggers something primal in everyone watching. People sense dominance not in loudness, but in calmness under pressure. In American culture, we've been sold the myth that extroversion equals leadership, that the louder you laugh, the more jokes you tell, the more confident you appear. But the opposite is true in power dynamics. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't compete for attention, and yet draws all eyes to him without effort. Stillness is unsettling because people expect motion, noise, reaction. When you give them nothing, they begin projecting their own insecurities onto your silence. They wonder, is he judging me? Planning something? Does he already know something I don't? That's where your aura begins. It starts before you speak. It starts before you even make eye contact. Machiavelli taught that the one who controls the atmosphere controls the outcome. If you walk into a room and immediately start adapting to their energy, trying to fit in joke charm or explain, you've already submitted. But if you walk in and hold your own energy unchanging, you force the entire room to adjust to you. That's the first lesson of aura. You don't react to the world. The world reacts to you. Don't fill the silence with words. Let the silence fill them with tension. The person who can sit still, who can breathe slowly while others rush to be heard, controls the frame of the room. And when you finally do speak, after the silence has done its work, your words carry weight because they were earned. This is the beginning of silent power, a presence that bends people without touch, without threats, without explanation. It's not magic. It's engineering. And anyone who learns this art stops being a voice in the crowd and becomes the force that shapes it. Niccolò Machiavelli once wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are." In that single line lies the foundation of aura. Power isn't in what people know about you, it's in what they can't figure out. And in today's hyper-transparent, oversharing world, being unreadable is rare and therefore priceless. Think about how most people live. They explain their feelings. They justify their actions. They post every thought online. Their lives are open books. But a person whose mind you cannot read becomes something else entirely, a mystery. And human nature fears what it cannot predict. When people can read you like a book, they prepare for you. They adjust. They neutralize your power because they've already calculated your next move. But when you are unreadable, they hesitate. They second-guess themselves. Their confidence cracks before they even engage with you. This is where aura takes root, not in the truth of who you are, but in the confusion of what you might be. You must stop presenting yourself as a mirror for others to understand. Become a shadow, instead something they see but cannot touch, something they sense but cannot define. Because the moment you let them truly see you, you give them control over how to handle you. Transparency feels noble, but it is a strategic liability. Machiavelli would say that clarity makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability invites attack. Mystery, on the other hand, is armor. In American culture, people value openness, friendliness, and accessibility. But in power, those are traps. The more available you are, the less respect you command. The more predictable you become, the easier it is for others to anticipate and undermine you. Great leaders, legendary figures, and iconic personalities are rarely open books. They are puzzles. People debate them, speculate about them, and in doing so, give them power. You must cultivate the same in your presence. Don't reveal your next move. Don't explain your motivations. Let them guess. Let them debate whether you are kind or cruel, calculating or compassionate. And while they argue among themselves, you move forward, unseen, untouched. Power lies not in being understood, but in being misunderstood strategically, intentionally, and permanently. Because when they can't read you, they can't prepare for you. And what they can't prepare for, they fear. That is how the unreadable man rules the room. Not by force, but by uncertainty. Powerful men rarely speak in full sentences. Their words are fragments, unfinished thoughts left hanging in the air like puzzles. Why? Because complete sentences give people clarity, and clarity makes them comfortable. But when you speak in fragments, you leave gaps that their minds can't help but fill. And what do they fill it with? Their fears, their doubts, their insecurities. That is where control begins. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, and it is more relevant today than ever. In modern America, where every podcast, tweet, and conversation is expected to be clear and complete, the man who speaks vaguely becomes terrifying. Because no one knows if you're agreeing, disagreeing, warning them, or just watching them destroy themselves. When you leave your meaning unclear, they obsess over it. They replay your words at night. They wonder, what did he mean by that? Was it a threat? A compliment? A warning? You see, most people use words as shields. They explain themselves so they won't be misunderstood. But a Machiavellian man uses words as traps. He speaks just enough to spark confusion, then falls silent and lets people fight themselves trying to figure it out. This is not about being vague out of laziness. This is calculated ambiguity. Speak in riddles, half-thoughts, unexpected phrases. Say things like, "That's one way to see it," or "You're assuming I didn't plan for this." Then stop. Do not explain. Let their imagination finish the sentence for you, and it will always be darker, deeper, more dangerous than anything you could have said outright. Trust in this context is irrelevant. People think you need to earn trust to lead, but trust is just a leash. When they trust you, they stop fearing you, but when they can't predict you, they follow you out of necessity. Mystery keeps them on edge. Silence keeps them guessing. In leadership, in business, in relationships, the person who controls the frame controls the outcome. And the frame is built not by what you say, but by what you don't. In a world addicted to oversharing, be the one they can't figure out. Speak less, say less, and watch as people try to solve the puzzle you leave behind. The most powerful men in history weren't the ones who explained themselves clearly. They were the ones whose true intentions were never fully understood and therefore never fully resisted. Predictability is the death of power. In life, in leadership, in influence, what people can predict, they control. And what they control, they stop respecting. Machiavelli understood this brutal truth long before modern psychology confirmed it. The man who stays the same, who always responds the same way, who is consistently warm, consistently cold, or consistently present, becomes easy to anticipate, easy to handle, and eventually easy to ignore. But the man who shifts without warning, who changes rhythm when people think they've figured him out, that man remains dangerous. In today's world, people are taught to be consistent as a virtue. Be consistent in your brand, your leadership, your personality. But in power dynamics, this is a fatal mistake. You must be fluid like water, unpredictable like a storm. Today you are warm, approachable, maybe even charming. Tomorrow you vanish without explanation, leaving a cold vacuum behind. One day you are everywhere, engaging, listening. The next day you are nowhere to be found. Your silence making people question what they did wrong. This unpredictability creates a psychological tension that makes people adjust themselves constantly to your mood, your rhythm, your energy. They start monitoring themselves. Did I offend him? Did I lose his favor? Should I act differently next time? In those questions, you own them. Most people in American culture crave routine and emotional safety, but those who seek power understand comfort breeds complacency, and complacency is death in the power game. If you want to be respected, you must be rare. If you want to be obeyed, you must be unpredictable. People respect what they cannot fully grasp. They obey what they cannot anticipate. Machiavelli would advise disappear when they expect your presence, reappear when it is least convenient for them. Shift your emotional temperature frequently. Speak warmly one day, then cut them cold the next. The human mind hates uncertainty. It will do anything to resolve it, even if that means submitting to the source of its confusion. Your fluidity keeps them chasing the real you, but they will never catch it. And that endless chase is where your power lives. Predictability belongs to the weak who need to be understood. Fluidity belongs to the powerful who need only to be obeyed. Stay fluid. Stay untouchable. Stay one step ahead of their expectations, and they will never stop adjusting to your presence. Words are weapons, but silence is strategy. And when you do speak, your words should not clarify, they should confuse. Machiavelli knew this better than anyone. He understood that truth is a liability in power games because once people have clarity, they stop fearing you. They start building defenses. But when your words drift like fog, half true, half mysterious, they lose their footing. In today's world, people rush to explain themselves. They want to be understood, approved, liked. But this only hands others the blueprint of how to control them. If they know what motivates you, they can manipulate you. If they know what you fear, they can exploit it. But if your answers are riddles, unfinished, vague, cold, you deny them this map. Imagine someone challenging your decision. Instead of defending yourself, you smile slightly and say, "What makes you think I didn't plan for this?" Then fall silent. Don't explain. Let their mind race through possibilities. Did he really plan it? Or is he bluffing? Should I challenge him again? Or have I already lost? That pause, that fog makes them hesitate. And hesitation is where your control begins. The man who fills silence loses it. The man who lets silence linger owns the room. In American business culture, we are taught to be clear, concise, confident, but clarity removes power. When people know your thoughts, they can predict your next move, and if they can predict you, they can prepare for you. The Machiavellian approach is different. Don't answer questions directly. Don't resolve doubts. Let them stew in them. Instead of saying yes or no, say we'll see. Instead of explaining your strategy, ask them, "Why do you think I made that choice?" Make them explain your actions to themselves. Because when people explain your behavior, they reveal their own mindset, not yours. And while they're busy trying to solve the puzzle you've created, you've already moved 3 steps ahead. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who says less, but means more. Who seems to know more than he says and yet says almost nothing at all. This is how fog works. It's present but untouchable. You don't need to dominate conversations to dominate people. You need to leave them wondering what you really meant long after the conversation ends. That's how you haunt their thoughts, without ever raising your voice. There is something deeply unsettling about a person who sits still while others scramble. In a world addicted to movement, noise, and speed, stillness feels unnatural, even threatening. Machiavelli understood that human beings expect action. They look for signs, expressions, reactions to feel secure. But when you give them none, when you sit unmoved while the room spins, they project their own fears onto your silence. In modern American culture, where hustle and energy are worshipped, we are told to show confidence by taking up space, speaking up, making noise. But the man who needs no noise commands far more attention than the man who shouts. Imagine a crowded meeting, voices overlapping laughter, forced ideas competing for space. And then in the corner, one man sits quietly watching. He doesn't rush to speak. He doesn't react to the chaos. Slowly, without effort, the room begins to quiet down. People glance at him. They wonder what he's thinking. They begin to feel the weight of his silence. That is aura. Stillness is power because it forces others to adjust their energy. You are not rushing to meet their tempo. You force them to slow down to yours. Most people in conversations lean forward, nod excessively, fill every pause with words to avoid discomfort. But when you remain still, when your posture is relaxed, yet commanding your gaze, steady your breathing, calm, you disturb something primal in those watching you. They don't know what to make of you. And that confusion makes them cautious. It makes them respectful. In American leadership culture, people confuse extroversion with strength, but true leaders don't compete for attention. They let their silence draw people in. They speak slowly, as if their words deserve space. They move deliberately, as if the world will wait for them. And it does. Because the person who controls the rhythm of the room controls its people. When you move like someone who owns time. When you speak as if silence itself asked for your permission to break. Stillness is not weakness. It is dominance without aggression. Because when you stop moving, stop filling the void, the room becomes aware of your stillness. And in that awareness, you control the frame. Be the one who slows down the pace of chaos, not the one who tries to keep up with it. In stillness, you own their attention without ever asking for it. In a world where everyone is screaming to be seen, the man who says little and dresses with quiet precision becomes unforgettable. Machiavelli understood that appearance is a tool, but not in the way most people use it today. Power is never found in flashy brands, loud colors, or desperate displays of wealth. Those are signs of a man trying to prove something. But true authority, it wears itself like a second skin, unforced, effortless, quietly undeniable. Your clothing should speak before you do, but not in volume, in precision. Wear sharp lines, subtle tones, clean simplicity. Every piece should say, this person doesn't need your approval. In American culture, where brands are worn like social status badges, this approach stands out. While others chase trends to fit in, you dress as if you were never part of the race. The quiet sharpness of your appearance creates tension. They wonder what you know that they don't, why you aren't trying to impress them. And in that question, you gain power. But appearance is only the first layer. The second and far deeper is your voice. Speak slowly. Measure your words as if each one costs you something to give away. Remove filler phrases, nervous laughter, and mindless ums and likes. Those are the habits of the insecure, the ones who talk to fill silence instead of mastering it. Machiavelli would advise you do not rush to answer. Let silence build first. Let the room sit in suspense before you break it. The longer you wait, the more value your words hold. And when you finally speak, speak as if your words carry the weight of decisions, not opinions, decisions. Every phrase should feel deliberate, not casual. In American leadership circles, people are taught to speak with enthusiasm, energy, and relatability. But you instead speak with finality. Like your words are conclusions, not conversations. That calm, quiet authority disarms people more than shouting ever could. Even your default facial expression must reflect this. Don't smile out of habit. Smiling without reason signals weakness. It's a plea for connection. Instead, let your face rest in calm unreadability. Not cold, not aggressive, just sovereign. The type of calm that forces people to guess what you're thinking. In the end, both your clothing and your speech are armor, not to protect you from attack, but to prevent anyone from feeling like they've figured you out. You are not flashy because you do not beg to be noticed. You are precise because your existence itself is enough to disturb the room. In every market, in every relationship, in every game of power, scarcity increases value. What is abundant is ignored. What is rare is sought after. And Machiavelli understood this principle long before it became the foundation of modern marketing and human psychology. People will tell you to be available, to be present, to be responsive. But that advice creates familiarity. And familiarity breeds comfort. Comfort breeds disrespect. If you are always there when they call, always answering, always available, you stop being valuable. You become ordinary, predictable, disposable. But if your presence is rare, if your attention feels earned, not given, then people begin to crave it. They watch for your arrival. They wonder about your absence. Your presence turns into an event. In American culture, we confuse popularity with power. But the truth is, what is popular is often cheap. Celebrities are everywhere, but they are not respected. They are consumed. The powerful, the ones who shape decisions behind the scenes, are scarce. They are rarely seen but always felt. Their absence is louder than most people's presence. You must learn this presence loses its weight if it is not balanced with absence. Withdrawal is not weakness. It is strategy. Imagine you engage fully one day, your energy lights up the room, your attention makes someone feel like they matter. And then without warning, you disappear. You stop replying, stop showing up, stop engaging. What happens next is critical. They will begin to question, did I lose his favor? Did I say something wrong? Will he return? And in that uncertainty, they become addicted to the very idea of your presence. Scarcity turns your presence into a prize. It makes people work harder for a moment of your attention. And in doing so, you shift the dynamic. They no longer take you for granted. They compete for you. They anticipate your return. And when you do return, it feels like a privilege, not a routine. The mistake most people make is thinking power comes from being liked, from being popular, from always being around. But the reality is people respect what they miss. They value what they can't have all the time. Scarcity is not arrogance. It is economics. It is psychology. You are not withdrawing to punish them. You are withdrawing to protect your value. Presence is like oxygen. It matters most when it's gone. Make yours rare enough that when you are absent, the room feels it. And when you are present, no one dares waste it. Power is not given freely. It is earned, and only by those who prove themselves worthy of your attention. In today's world, people hand out approval like candy. They give compliments to strangers, likes to people they barely know, and validation to anyone who asks for it. But what is easily given is quickly forgotten. If you want to command real power, your approval must be scarce, and more importantly, difficult to earn. Machiavelli would remind you human nature values what is costly. If your validation comes without effort, it loses its meaning. But if your recognition is rare, calculated, and unpredictable, people will fight for it without even realizing they are doing so. In American culture, we are conditioned to seek harmony, to reassure, to uplift others. But in power dynamics, reassurance is a drug. It calms people, makes them soft, complacent. You must do the opposite. You must make people crave your approval, but never feel secure in it. Give them a glimpse of praise, then withdraw. Compliment them once, then remain silent for weeks. Offer your attention briefly, then take it away. This trains people to work for your recognition as if it were a reward, and it is. Imagine how this works in relationships, leadership, and social circles. While others constantly flatter, you remain silent. While others offer comfort, you offer challenge. While others give approval easily, you make people prove their worth. And when they finally earn a nod, a word of acknowledgement from you, it feels like victory. This is how you create loyalty without promises, how you build dependence without chains. But be careful. This is not cruelty. You are not withholding to hurt people. You are withholding to protect your power. If you hand out your approval to everyone, you become common. And commonness is the graveyard of influence. Instead, be like the rare coin sought after, fought over, yet rarely seen. Let them work for your smile. Let them question whether they've pleased you. Let them adjust their behavior in the hope of earning your praise. And when you give it, make it brief, make it sharp, make it unforgettable. Then disappear again, leaving them craving your return. This dynamic keeps you in control. It prevents others from becoming comfortable around you. Power is maintained not by constant reassurance, but by controlled scarcity. Approval, when rare, becomes power. And power, when protected, becomes influence that no one dares take for granted. The weak walk into a room and adapt to its energy. They match the mood, follow the rhythm, and blend into the atmosphere already present. But the powerful do the opposite. They reshape the environment the moment they enter. Machiavelli understood that the man who controls the atmosphere controls the decisions made within it. Power is not in what you say, but in what people feel when you are there. You don't dominate by raising your voice, but by lowering the temperature of the room until others fall silent, waiting for your next move. In American culture, we are encouraged to be lively, engaging, enthusiastic to light up the room. But this makes you a performer, not a ruler. The true ruler infects the room with his stillness. He doesn't adjust his mood to match theirs. They adjust theirs to survive his. Imagine walking into a meeting where people are laughing loudly, talking over one another, confident in their comfort. And then, without saying a word, you sit down. No smile, no introduction. Just stillness. Slowly, the noise fades. The laughter dies. Eyes turn toward you not because you demanded attention, but because your energy disrupted their momentum. This is the essence of environmental control. You don't fight for the spotlight. You are the gravitational pull that forces the spotlight to shift. You decide whether the room feels warm or cold, tense or relaxed without a single declaration. The greatest leaders from ancient courts to modern boardrooms understood this silent power. They didn't lead by debating, they led by framing. When they entered, the room's emotional temperature recalibrated around them. Here is your task: walk slowly, sit deliberately, speak minimally. Let your mood set the pace. If you are calm, others will lower their voices. If you are serious, others will drop their jokes. If you are silent, others will fill the void nervously. Their reaction is your control. This is not arrogance, it is mastery of presence. Never adapt to chaos. Infect it. If people are anxious, remain steady. If people are frantic, slow down. Your resistance to their energy forces them to recalibrate. In that recalibration, you own the frame. The man who controls the frame shapes the narrative, and the narrative decides who wins. Stop focusing on words and start focusing on energy. Because in every room, someone is setting the tone, and if it's not you, it's someone else bending the room against you. Be the one who bends it first. Power does not belong to the one who feels the most, but to the one who controls what they feel. Machiavelli taught that rulers must master their emotions, not because they are cold, but because emotion makes you predictable, and predictability makes you weak. In today's world, especially in American culture, we are encouraged to be emotionally open to express how we feel, to wear our hearts on our sleeves. But in power dynamics, that is suicide. The one who can be emotionally read can be emotionally manipulated. Imagine standing in a heated argument. One person raises their voice veins bulging, trying to provoke a reaction. And there you are, calm, unmoved, unreadable. You let their fire burn out against the cold steel of your silence. They grow frustrated, confused, even desperate because they cannot get to you. That is emotional discipline. That is control. Praise should not inflate you. Criticism should not shake you. Compliments are tools others use to soften your guard. Insults are weapons meant to trigger you. When you react to either, you have given them the ability to move you like a puppet. But when you remain still, when you treat both praise and criticism with the same indifference, you send a terrifying message. You don't control my state of mind. Machiavelli would say that a ruler must be like a lion and a fox, powerful yet strategic. The lion's roar doesn't need constant validation. The fox's cunning isn't driven by emotional swings. You must be both. In American leadership, We often see two extremes: leaders who are cold machines and leaders who are emotionally explosive. Both are weak in their own ways. The true power lies in the middle: emotion present, but mastered; humanity visible but untouchable. When you control your emotional reactions, you control how people feel around you. They adjust to your emotional state whether they realize it or not. If you remain calm when others panic, they look to you for stability. If you stay serious when others joke, they lower their laughter. If you smile slightly when others expect anger, you unsettle their expectations. This is not about being distant. It's about being sovereign over your own state. Emotional discipline is the crown no one can take from you. It is not something you announce. It is something people feel, and they respect what they cannot shake. You must become the fixed point in their chaos, the calm eye of the storm they orbit around. In doing so, you don't just control your feelings, you control theirs. The highest form of power is not the power you see, it's the power you feel when the person isn't even in the room. This is what Machiavelli hinted at when he described rulers who controlled not through force, but through fear, respect, and uncertainty. True rulers do not need to constantly remind you of their authority. Their absence is enough to shift your behavior. Their silence is enough to weigh down your thoughts. And their approval or lack of it is the hidden force guiding your actions, whether you admit it or not. In modern American leadership culture, too many chase visible dominance. They post, they brag, they seek validation through numbers and applause. But real power is silent. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It lets people notice its absence and suffer in that void. The invisible king is the person whose energy fills a space even when they leave it. People pause and ask, what would he think before making a move? They hesitate not because you gave them orders, but because they fear acting against your unseen standards. This is the final evolution of aura. You are no longer just a person. They see you as a standard, an expectation, a shadow hanging over every decision. When you speak, it is rare and final. When you withdraw, it feels like exile. When you disappear, they crave your return. This is not manipulation for cruelty's sake. It is influence so complete that you no longer need to explain your power. It exists in the minds of others as an unspoken law. Machiavelli would tell you, let them wonder where you've gone. Let them debate your next move. Let them fill the silence you leave behind with their own fears, because the person they imagine is far more powerful than the person you could ever explain. You don't need to rule through loud declarations. You rule through quiet expectations. Withdraw when they need you most. Return when they least expect it. Be present enough to disturb their peace, but absent enough to preserve your mystery. The more they see you, the less they respect you. But the less they see you, the more they feel you. In the end, the true tyrant is not the one who controls through chains, but the one who controls through atmosphere. You don't need a crown to be king. You don't need a throne to rule. You simply exist in their minds quietly, permanently, irresistibly. And that is power no one can overthrow. In a world obsessed with noise, speed, and constant connection, the greatest power often belongs to the one who speaks the least but shapes the most. Machiavelli's timeless wisdom teaches us that leadership isn't about dominating the conversation, it's about commanding the atmosphere. The person who controls their emotions speaks with intention and withdraws strategically, creates an aura so powerful that people adjust themselves without ever being asked. In your life, whether at work, in relationships, or among friends, the lesson is clear. Stop chasing attention. Start commanding presence. Don't rush to explain yourself. Don't beg to be understood. Let your stillness speak. Let your absence be felt. People value what they can't predict, what they have to work for, and what they miss when it's gone. If you give your energy away freely, it loses its worth. But when you control it with precision, your presence becomes a rare privilege. You don't need to be arrogant or cold, but you must be intentional. Be slow to speak, careful with your attention, and impossible to fully understand. In doing so, you'll find that respect, curiosity, and even loyalty follow those who don't demand them, but embody them. So today ask yourself, are you filling space with noise, or are you shaping it with your presence? Are you chasing connection, or are you making others earn your energy? Power is not about being seen everywhere. It's about being unforgettable when you appear and impossible to ignore when you leave. If this message resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep building minds that lead, not beg.